Tonight, Israel promises retaliation after a terrorist attack near Tel Aviv's main airport. And the Jewish state announces a new plan for Gaza. President Trump defends his trade policy as new tariffs kick in.
Every country, almost without fail, friend and foe, has been ripping us off for years.
And as China signals openness to negotiate with the United States. Plus, naming the next pope.
Là, ce cardinal, ce qu'il dit et ce qu'il est,
Cardinals flock to Rome as the process to replace Pope Francis gets ready to begin. All this and more tonight on Faith Nation. Tensions in the Middle East as Israel contends with multiple adversaries. Welcome to Faith Nation. I'm Jenna Browder. Israel is retaliating tonight following a Houthi missile strike over the weekend near Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport. Reports as of this evening indicate the IDF has attacked dozens of Houthi targets in Yemen. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Netanyahu is also launching a new offensive in Gaza. National security correspondent Caitlin Burke has the details. Caitlin, bring us up to speed on both fronts.
Jenna, multiple news outlets are reporting Israeli fighter jets have struck a port in Yemen that serves as a central supply source for the Houthis. According to the IDF, they also struck a concrete plant used to construct terrorist infrastructure. Israel's government press office released these photos of Prime Minister Netanyahu at the Air Force Command Center with his defense minister and the IDF chief of staff during the strike. Meanwhile, Israel is calling up tens of thousands of reservists as it prepares to intensify and expand its war on Hamas. The mission now to conquer Gaza and hold the territory.
The army has the plans ready to take over the Gaza Strip. The government thinks this should be done. The question is the timing and how do you balance between the need to bring back the hostages on one hand and destroying Hamas on the other hand.
Monday, Israel's security cabinet unanimously approved the operation, providing for the conquering of Gaza and holding the territories. The announcement comes just a day after a Houthi missile hit near Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion airport.
Whoa!
Netanyahu warning he holds both the Houthis and Iran responsible.
We will not tolerate it. We will take very strong action against them. And we always remember that they act with their patron Iran's direction and support.
CBN Mideast Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell visited the site of the strike.
This is the main entrance into David Ben Gurion Airport. Just across the road, you can see where the Houthi missile hit from nearly 1,400 miles away.
It injured 8 people and temporarily shut down airport operations. The IDF reported several attempts to intercept the missile and is now investigating why those were unsuccessful. The Houthis vowed to continue attacks on Israel's airports, warning airlines to cancel flights in and out of the country. While Iran denies any involvement, over the weekend, the regime unveiled a new missile it says can bypass the U.S. THAAD anti-ballistic defense system with ease, with American bases as the prime targets.
If we are attacked, if a war is imposed on us, we will give a powerful response. We will attack their interests, their bases, without any reservations or limitations.
President Trump has not commented directly on the airport strike. However, in the past, he stated that he holds Iran responsible for the actions of its proxies. Jenna?
All right, Caitlin, thank you. Brad Bowman joins us now. He is the Senior Director of the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Brad, good to see you. Thank you for being here. So let's start with your analysis of the Houthi missiles targeting the airport, and how did they get through?
You know, it's a good question. Let's remember that the Houthis are a terrorist organization in Yemen supported by Iran. And these sorts of attacks would not be possible if it weren't for that support from Iran. So I think President Trump is right to highlight that, as is Prime Minister Netanyahu. You know, the United States has been pummeling the Houthis for weeks now. And I do believe that in the end, they will be unsuccessful unless we don't address the patron in Iran. But this was a missile that was launched toward Israel. Houthis have done this many times, and it's not some special gee whiz super advanced missile. They'd like to claim that it is, but it appears to be more of the same type of missiles that they've launched to Israel before. Israel has successfully shot these down in the past, but in this instance, Israel's Arrow air and missile defense system, one of the most advanced in the world, as well as the U.S. Army Terminal High Altitude Area Defense System, or THAAD system, both failed to down this missile. That's a notable failure. We got to understand what happened and make sure it doesn't happen again. It appears that it might have been a technical issue with the interceptor in the case of the Arrow system as opposed to something related to detection. But there's still open questions about why the THAAD system, which is also deployed to Israel, also failed to down this incoming Houthi missile.
So Brad, the Houthis, they've vowed to not stop these kinds of attacks until the war in Gaza is over. What else do you think we could see them do?
You know, they've launched, as I said, many missiles. They've launched drones. There was one drone that got through in Tel Aviv and killed individuals in Tel Aviv. So I would predict that they will continue to conduct these sorts of strikes. There are additional targets that we can hit in Yemen, but this is a determined group that is explicitly anti-American and anti-Semitic, and we should expect these attacks to continue as long as they have the means, and many of those means are coming from the Islamic Republic of Iran. So if we continue to go after the Houthis and don't address Iran, it's a bit like cleaning up puddles in your home and not addressing the leak in your roof.
Yeah, you know, we've seen a lot of tough talk toward Iran from President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu. We also know that they're very focused and put a great deal of value on getting the hostages home who are still in Gaza. How does that, Brad, weigh into the decision-making process?
Right. So the Houthis are saying they're continuing to attack Israel because of the war in Gaza. So that's one reason why these will continue. And let's not forget that, you know, roughly 59 of these hostages, about half of which horribly are already dead, have been there since the horrific October 7th Hamas terror attack. And so Israel and the United States want those hostages released. Hamas has horribly refused to release them and sickly has refused to even give the dead bodies back. And so it's understandable that Israel would want to go in and get those hostages. But a major renewed ground operation in Gaza is going to be very, very resource intensive and require the call up of thousands of Israeli reservists and may be directly at odds with getting the remaining hostages home alive.
Okay, Brad Bowman with FDD. Great to have you with us this evening. We appreciate your expertise. Thank you.
Thank you.
In other news, Brazilian authorities say they've uncovered a terrorist plot to attack concertgoers over the weekend. Rio de Janeiro police arrested 2 suspects connected to a plan to use explosive devices on people attending the Lady Gaga concert Saturday, specifically targeting LGBTQ people. A separate third person was also arrested. Police say that suspect planned to harm a child in order to perform satanist rituals. Officials say 2.1 million people attended that free concert, which went off without incident. Here at home, we expect to hear from the Fed later this week about interest rates. Some experts expect the Fed to keep rates steady while the economy weathers the uncertainty of President Trump's tariffs. President Trump announced today a 100% tariff on movies produced in foreign countries. This as he doubled down this weekend on how the tariffs could affect toys.
Are you saying that your tariffs will cause some prices to go up?
No, I think the tariffs are going to be great for us because it's going to make us rich.
But you said some dolls are going to cost more. Isn't that an acknowledgement that some prices will go up?
I don't think a beautiful baby girl that's 11 years old needs to have 30 dolls. I think they can have 3 dolls or 4 dolls because what we were doing with China was just unbelievable. We had a trade deficit of hundreds of billions of dollars with China.
Also in that interview, President Trump said the good parts of the economy are the Trump economy and the bad parts are the Biden economy. And Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent backed the president's message today in a meeting with investors. He told the room at the Milken Global Conference to trust the plan and that the president's moves on trade, tax cuts, and deregulation would be good for business.
So for the past 100 days, we've been preparing the soil. We have uprooted government waste and harmful regulations. We have planted the seeds of private investment, and we have fertilized the ground with fresh tax legislation. Next, we harvest, and we want you to harvest with us.
In an interview with CNBC, Bessent said the U.S. is close to a deal with several trade partners, including China. And time's up for millions of student loan borrowers as the government resumes collections on default accounts. The Trump administration announced plans to begin sending overdue accounts to collections, getting rid of a pause put in place during the pandemic. A new analysis from TransUnion shows about 1 in 5 federal student loan borrowers with payments due are seriously delinquent, with accounts at least 90 days past due. Coming up, faith leaders descend on Washington to rally support for Israel. Dr. Susan Michael with International Christian Embassy Jerusalem is with us in studio. Our conversation right after the break. And welcome back to Faith Nation. We are joined now by the Director of American Christian Leaders for Israel and President of the International Christian Embassy Jerusalem, USA, Dr. Susan Michael. Dr. Michael, thank you for being here. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be with you.
So you and faith leaders are here in Washington this week to really rally support for Israel. What's your message to these lawmakers?
We want them to know that the support of Israel is not just a Jewish issue, it's not just a Christian issue, it's both. And it's an American issue. And so we're here to join forces and to show a united front in support of Israel and also in combating anti-Semitism.
Are you meeting with them? What does your work look like this week?
Tonight we have a gala dinner where we'll all be together and begin relationship building with our groups from states and congressional districts. And then tomorrow we go on Capitol Hill. We have almost 100 appointments tomorrow, where each appointment is attended by a group from that state or that district. And that they are showing that in each group there's Jews, there's Christians, there's rabbis, there's pastors, and that they are there to advocate for Israel together. We have other meetings on Wednesday. We have a session just for Christian leaders to educate them about the rising anti-Semitism and what they can do at the local level to combat it.
You mentioned the rise in anti-Semitism, around the world. At the same time, lawmakers, there is a bill that they're trying to pass, but they're having some difficulties doing that. Lawmakers from both sides, they don't like the definition of anti-Semitism. Dr. Michael, how do they come to terms? How do they reach a negotiation on this?
Well, the International Holocaust Resource Association developed a definition of anti-Semitism. And it's pretty standard and no one should have a problem with it, but they also gave some examples of what anti-Semitism looks like. And one of those examples, I'm saying this for our Christian audience, one of those examples is about the accusation that the Jews killed Jesus. And there has been pushback against that by some of the Christian lawmakers, saying that is outlawing the New Testament, and that is not at all what it's talking about. It's not talking about the historical narrative that we read in the scriptures about the death of Jesus and who may have been responsible. It's about an age-old accusation that even Jews today are responsible for the death of Jesus 2,000 years ago. It's an anti-Semitic accusation that they're Christ killers. So I think that that's just one example that some of this needs just greater explanation and understanding of these accusations against the Jewish people.
I'm curious what you see as the biggest threat facing Israel today.
Well, the greatest threat facing Israel is Iran. They are backing all of these fronts that are against Israel, not just Hamas, not just Hezbollah, not just the Houthis. Yeah, they are the troublemakers. And that's why I think President Trump is determined to do something about Iran. And Israel is very determined to do something about Iran. And we just have to see how that plays out. But their days of opposing Israel must be numbered.
So some recent polling from Pew shows Americans souring a bit on Israel. 53% saying they have a somewhat or very unfavorable view of Israel. That's actually up 11% from 2022. What do you think is behind that?
Well, it's no surprise when you see the anti-Israel propaganda that is on social media. We have it in our universities and college campuses. So I think those numbers reflect the younger generations, and they are not as pro-Israel as our older generations have been. And I think that's what the poll is reflecting.
How do you think we change that?
Well, we have got to educate, educate, educate. So we need to be on social media, much more aggressive, reaching those young people where they are and helping them to understand that these images and these lies are not the truth. It's not the facts.
And specifically for Christians, what role do they play in this? How can they help?
Well, prayer, number one. Number two, to educate the young people in our churches, in our homes, you know, in our families, and to make sure and protect them from these lies because they're vicious.
Yeah. All right, Dr. Susan Michael, thank you so much for coming in studio, and thank you for the work that you're doing on this important topic.
Thank you.
And the best to all of you this week as you rally those lawmakers. All right, up next, who will be the next Pope? Cardinals flock to Rome as the process to replace Pope Francis gets ready to begin. Welcome back. The Vatican is preparing for the conclave to select the next pope. It begins Wednesday when 135 cardinals have their first vote on who they think should replace Pope Francis. They're all sworn to secrecy, and it's not just them. Anyone involved in the process, from cooks to cleaners, doctors, nurses, security staff, they all take an oath of secrecy. Typically, the conclave lasts several days. We will, of course, have coverage this week, so please stay tuned. Well, for centuries, horses have inspired and healed people. May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and CBN's Brody Carter shows us a growing movement harnessing the therapeutic power of equine therapy, combining it with faith to change lives.
He is my pal.
Joe Most and his wife Penny found love more than 20 years ago through their shared passion for horses. Together, they run Perfect Partners Equine, living out their mission in Ridgeway, Virginia, and as they like to say, waiting on the Lord's return in their spurs and boots.
Oh, it's because God's coming back on a horse, and I want to be able to ride with him.
In the meantime, the couple trains horses while offering clinics and excursions, blending equine-assisted therapy with their faith.
They experience the horse. Hopefully they see God through us. We want God to shine his light, his face on us for the world to see. And hopefully they see the love of us through the horse.
And the Mosts are not alone. Across the U.S. and beyond, ranches like these demonstrate the power of healing through horses. The global market for equine therapy is expected to increase by 15% this year alone.
And the power of God to heal through these amazing animals is incredible.
A few states over in Weidman, Michigan, Jody Stuber and her husband Ty are also changing lives with horses at Hopewell Ranch.
So when you have somebody who comes into the ranch and they're so wounded by life circumstances, it's really our honor to just be. We try really hard to be welcoming and kind and loving, you know, the way Jesus would be.
After the devastating loss of her baby, Hope, Jody says the Holy Spirit comforted her with the words, "Hope will rise again," sparking a vision to create a sanctuary for healing with horses.
They're prey animals, so they actually are very intuitive. They know how to read body language better than we do, and because that's their primary source of communication. And so if a person is struggling, they're going to pick up on it. If a person's angry, they're going to pick up on it. They just know what's going on inside of us, and honestly, a lot of times better than we do.
The ranch offers a wide range of beneficial programs, including Project Solomon, which helps veterans experiencing post-traumatic stress free of charge.
We'd love to see insurance pick this up, but right now we do a lot of fundraising, we do a lot of private pay to be able to do what we do.
And Jody adds that when God enters the arena, anything is possible.
We have a ringside seat to miracles. I have stories I could share of how God has really tangibly used these animals to provide what people need.
At both Hopewell Ranch and Perfect Partners Equine, the missions extend beyond therapy, with a focus on making this care accessible and showing how God's love can transform lives.
I guess my favorite saying is God's got a plan. Just ask him to stand next to you and let your heart be open to him and let him dictate to you what you're going to do. Be moldable like our horses are moldable to us.
Brody Carter, CBN News.
Brody, and still ahead, a popular Denver canine finds a new home. That's next on Faith Nation.
Download the CBN News app. One place for all of your news. Breaking news alerts. Watch CBN News Channel live. CBN News, because truth matters. Get the CBN News app today.
You have to start by just asking simple questions. So I tell people, before you start asking complicated questions, ask Holy Spirit yes or no questions. Just start with yes or no. He's looking at his phone. He's like, I thought we were sitting next to each other. I was like, yeah, this is gonna sound weird, but I just felt like I was supposed to move to the front. He's making fun of me. He's laughing.
Wait,
and
you
he's
told
just
your friend, I'm sorry, bro. I know I invited you on this trip. The Holy Spirit told me to leave you in coach while I go front for a 2-hour flight.
Yeah, so right. I went back and got my brain rescanned at the end. If you look at like a traumatic brain injury, he said that my cerebellum healed about 5 years in those 7 weeks. I remember one night when I went to bed, it was darker than dark. I felt like there was something evil in the room. It was 3 a.m., maybe 3:15 a.m. All I can think to myself is, I need to call my dad. And I sprinted into the kitchen and I went to grab the phone and it rang at 3:15 in the morning.
And that was a preview of the new episode this week of CBN's new podcast, Heaven Meets Earth, hosted by Abigail Robertson and Ryan Bethea. They interview author, speaker, podcaster, and social media influencer Carlos Whitaker about how to walk with the Holy Spirit through your everyday life. You can watch or listen now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, the CBN Family app, or anywhere you get your podcasts. And finally tonight, a stray dog finds his forever home after earning a unique nickname and reputation. He's become known as Park Hill Dave. The German Shepherd spent months roaming the now closed Park Hill Golf Course in Denver, all the while avoiding being captured. When Jolyn Clark with Denver Parks and Rec was tasked with turning the space into a park, he set a humane trap filled with treats. Park Hill Dave took the bait, finding himself in the hands of Clark, who decided to adopt him.
2 different people stopped me and were like, oh my gosh, is that Park Hill Dave? Can I take a selfie with him? And he's just a really, really spectacular dog.
And now Dave gets to travel to all of Denver's parks with his new owner and best friend. And that's going to do it for Faith Nation. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great night. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.